Honorable Ministers, Shri Bhupendra Singh Chudasama, Srimati Vasuben Trivedi, Shri Saurabh Bhai Patel, Dr. Renu Khator, who is the President of University of Houston, Principal Secretary Dr. Hasmukh Adia, Dr. Jayanti Ravi, my friend Dr. Pandian, distinguished delegates, eminent educationists, ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a great pleasure as well as an honor to be here to participate in this International Conference for Academic Institutions 2013. And at the very outset, I would like to congratulate the organizers for putting together such a great bunch of people on a subject of a great contemporary relevance. It is also my great honor to present a keynote address today in this session, which is titled Way Forward for International Collaboration. For the purpose of this session, I'm going to be wearing two hats. One hat is, of course, presently as the member of Planning Commission, looking after education, labor and employment, skill development, social justice, and empowerment. But the second hat that I'm going to wear today in this session is the hat as the former Vice Chancellor of University of Pune, which incidentally is the largest contingent, which incidentally has the largest contingent of foreign students coming to India. I was told that the University of Houston has a very large number of students, and it was mentioned by Dr. Renu Khator while introducing Dr. Renu Khator that by American standards, they have a very large number of students, 67,000. University of Pune has a parallel with that because University of Pune has probably the largest number of students in the world. It has only 700,000 students. And it's so everything that you find very large abroad, you have to multiply by 10 when it comes to India. That is the moral of the story. But one of the very important features of Pune University is that it has the largest contingent of foreign students coming to India. Most people do not know this, but about 45% of all the foreign students coming to India go to one institution in our country, and that is University of Pune. So speaking as the member of Planning Commission in charge of education, let me give you a policy perspective first on globalization of higher education. As you have undoubtedly seen in the newspapers and noted that recently, as a matter of fact, on 27th of December 2012, the 12th five-year plan was finalized and approved by the National Development Council, which, as you are aware, happens to be the largest policy-making body in our country. In the 12th five-year plan, there is a continued focus on education. In fact, education is a priority sector as far as the 12th five-year plan is concerned. And in education, there is a continued focus on the three E's, the expansion, equity, and excellence. And within the focus on achieving excellence in our higher educational institutions, internationalization of higher education is indeed a very, very important component. As you are aware, the government of India has been contemplating on a foreign education providers bill, and that bill has gone through the parliament, and it was referred to the standing committee of the parliament, and only last week, the report of the standing committee of the parliament on the subject is made available, and we are going over that, and it will soon come for discussion in the parliament. That is the status, because a lot of people told me that you must also explain what is the status of the Foreign Education Providers Bill. Under that Foreign Education Providers Bill, a lot of things, at least in the draft stage, there are lots of things which are expected to happen. It will open the doors for a very large number of, fairly large number of foreign institutions to come here to India and set up their own educational institution. But what is happening currently in terms of the 12th five-year plan document, it has laid a special emphasis on internationalization of education. And I'm going to read out one paragraph which succinctly summarizes the stand that the government is going to take on internationalization of higher education as far as in the next 5 years during the 12th five-year plan period. And I quote, "A strategy for higher education internationalization is to be developed during the 12th five-year plan, and it would include faculty and student exchange programs, international collaborations for teaching and research, exposure to diverse teaching learning models, and enhanced use of ICTs. Globally compatible academic systems, curricula, internationalization, and the process of mutual recognition of qualifications would be put in place during the 12th five-year plan. And this is very interesting. A professional national agency, the India International Education Center, would be created during the 12th five-year plan to undertake internationalization activities. It will support selected institutions to establish dedicated internationalization units. That is the perspective, policy perspective on globalization or internationalization of higher education in the next 5 years, and this is beginning of the process. That said, let me now turn from macro level to micro level, from the national policy level to the level of individual institutions, the universities and the research institutions. Here, as I mentioned earlier, my experience as the Vice Chancellor of University of Pune is certainly worthwhile sharing with this distinguished audience. As I mentioned, University of Pune has every year they get about 40 to 45% of all the foreign students coming to India. And this has become possible because there are more than 100 MOUs signed between the University of Pune and the leading educational institutions in the world. What do these MOUs do? Basically, these MOUs do 4 different things. One is, first aspect is exchange of students, and there are many arrangements about exchange of students, two-way exchange of students to and fro. And there are a variety of arrangements available, including twining arrangements, including doing a part of the course here and a part of the course abroad, because the joint degrees are not available, not possible legally speaking as yet. So there are various ways that have been found out to have a large exchange of students between the university, which is undertaking this collaboration with the educational institution of repute elsewhere. That's first one. Second aspect of the MOU typically is the exchange of faculty. And this is also happening in big way, exchange of faculty between the 2 institutions which are entering into an agreement. The third aspect is the joint research, which is funded by either institution or a third-party institution. It can happen if there are 2 universities, University A and University B in India and abroad. If they are entering into an MOU, they can agree on a joint research done together, which could be funded either by University A or University B or some other source, either in the home country or in the foreign country involved. The fourth aspect of these MOUs typically is running programs at each other's institutions. Many programs, depending on your own strength, can be conducted in other partner institutions abroad, and partner institutions can in turn be encouraged to run programs in our universities at this end. To these 4 aspects, which have worked extremely well with my experience at the University of Pune, with very large number of students, and many agreements are working very well. To these 4 aspects that I talked about, the exchange of students, the exchange of faculty, exchange of student, exchange of faculty, joint research, and running programs at each other's institutions, there is need now to add a 5th aspect, and this aspect, 5th aspect, is the academic and technological collaboration between the 2 institutions. This would include teaching learning models. It should include globally compatible academic credit systems. It would include globally compatible curricula, and it should include enhanced use of ICTs and so on. At the systemic level, if you have these 5 aspects covered in your agreements that you sign with the foreign universities, it will be a big help, and it has been proven success in many parts of our country, particularly in the University of Pune. At the systemic level, for the bilateral collaborations can be supported by the systemic level collaborations, and there are several bilateral systemic collaborations available. The recent Obama-Singh initiative is one example, but there are many examples where you can use the broad umbrella of the bilateral agreements between India and other countries, and within that broad umbrella, individual educational institutions can carve out a place for themselves in respect of international collaborations. Also worthwhile to note here is there are many groups of institutions which are working for collaborations, inter-country collaborations, and this includes UCARI, there is the Ontario group of universities, and there are many others. And at individual institutions, individual countries have been taking initiative of late, and there's a lot of very good work being done by British Council, India-Australia Institute, and so on. I'm not mentioning all of them, but there are many frameworks which are already available. So when you, as a Vice Chancellor, at the helm of your own individual educational institution, is looking forward to collaboration with other institutions, you can bilaterally approach them, or you can use the framework that is available, various frameworks which are available at the systemic level. What are the markets for incoming foreign students? Again, going by my experience in Pune University, the largest market for incoming foreign students is Africa. A very large number of students come from Africa. The second largest one is the students from the Middle East. Third largest one is Southeast Asia, and which includes the SAARC countries, the 8 countries which are members of SAARC. Fourth group is Europe, and the fifth group is United States, in that order. So the first one is Africa, second is Middle East, third is Southeast Asia, fourth is Europe, and fifth is USA. As far as the outflow of students is concerned from here, it is exactly the opposite. USA comes first, second comes Europe, and of late, Singapore and Australia are coming up in a big way as attractive places for the Indian students to go there. While we emphasize the quality improvement aspect of academic collaborations between inter-university collaboration between universities of our country and abroad, in addition to the academic collaborations, these academic collaborations are extremely useful, but going beyond the academic collaborations, they can be also very useful in terms of building reserves, which in turn can be used by the universities in India to develop their own infrastructure and also to help poor students. Illustratively, if you look at the fee structure, based on my memory, all the SAARC countries, the fee structure is such for the foreign students that for all the students coming from the SAARC countries, the fee structure prescribed, at least until 2009, was the fees were, roughly speaking, about 4 times the fees that the normal Indian students pay. Whereas for non-SAARC countries, the fee was about 7 to 8 times the fees which are charged to the regular Indian students, which means that this can also be a game changer in terms of improving, boosting the finances of your individual institutions, and that can be used to leverage in favor of developing the infrastructure at your university and also helping the poor student. And that is precisely what I could do at the University of Pune. As I mentioned earlier, friends, under the 12th plan, the Government of India proposes to set up an India International Education Center. That would be a very, very important institution, because that is the one which is expected to coordinate internationalization endeavors of individual educational and research institutions. But that is going to happen at the systemic level. You, as the head of the individual institution in this country, you should be also, particularly those who are serious about international collaborations, must put their own act together. And there are a number of things that you should be doing if you are serious about international collaborations. I want to highlight in particular 3. One is setting up well-equipped hostels for the foreign students with the state-of-art broadband connectivity. This is absolutely important to have that, and you should also augment that. You can't accommodate all the foreign students at once, so therefore you should also proactively be involved in helping them make arrangements, private arrangements within the city where you are located. Again, Pune University has the model which has worked very well. Second one, facilities for video conferencing. This becomes extremely essential for the collaboration, inter-university collaboration here and abroad, because that way we can leverage the expertise of people at either end through the means of video conferencing. And this is again happening in many places. It began to happen in many places, and that needs to be strengthened at your institution if you are serious. Most importantly, and this is the most important part, if you are serious about foreign academic collaborations with foreign institutions, you have to have an international center established at your university. Today, as far as I know, only one university has an international center. That is my old university, University of Pune. This is absolutely essential because that international center faces innumerable problems, and they have to maintain liaison with police on one hand, which are not very helpful, I must say. Second, you have to maintain a liaison with the Home Ministry of Government of India. And the third one, most importantly, and the most difficult part, is to maintain liaison with the External Affairs Ministry. Because visas are a very, very big problem in the sense that there are all kinds of things happen. We don't have time to go over that. But this is something which can be a very important source of impediment. It is a major impediment for foreign students coming in. For United States, if you get admission for MA and PhD program, you are granted 5 years visa at one go. In India, even if you take admission for PhD, you are granted 1 year's visa. That means that you have to go on renewing, which means that you have to keep going to the police verification and all the procedure, which is, apart from, there are many malpractices, but it is a source of major disincentive and impediment. In fact, in 2008, the government of India had established a full-fledged ambassador was posted to University of Pune to look at these problems, and he gave a major report, a very important report, highlighting all these problems, and sorting those problems out becomes a very, very challenging task. And therefore, if you are serious about internationalization of education, if you are serious about collaboration with the foreign academic institutions of repute, you must have your own international center, which will facilitate this liaison with the police on one hand, Home Ministry of the Government of India on the other, and also with the External Affairs Ministry. There are many problems, but those problems are not insurmountable. And I certainly hope that when this India International Education Center is established under the 12th five-year plan, it will give a big boost in the sense that it can take over many of these problems. But to coordinate with them, to help them help you, you have to have your own international center at the university where you are located. I can assure you that there's a tremendous scope and there is a great need for internationalization of higher education, and this is the time to begin. So those of you who have not begun, I think this is the time to make a start, and a big start, and I'm absolutely certain that this two-day conference will go a long way in giving you the kind of information and insight that you need to make it big in terms of internationalization of education at the university where you are. Once again, I thank the organizers for having given me opportunity to come here and speak to all of you, and I wish all of you all the very best. Thank you.